The water was already at her chest when Sofia saw the motorcycles, 60 headlights cutting through the storm like angels arriving too late. Her sedan was sinking fast into the flooded underpass, the doors sealed shut by water pressure, and her phone showing that dreaded no-service message. But what those bikers did next would become the reason she still believes in miracles. Sofia had driven through that underpass beneath Highway 35 1,000 times in her 46 years, but never during a flash flood warning. Never while running from the divorce papers she'd just been served at what was supposed to be an anniversary dinner. The rain had started just as her husband told her about Jennifer, his 28-year-old assistant, about the baby on the way, about how he needed to follow his happiness. Sofia had fled the restaurant in her 8-year-old Honda, the car they'd bought together when things were still good, when promises still meant something. She wasn't thinking about weather warnings or flooded roads. She was thinking about 23 years of marriage dissolving like sugar in all this rain. The underpass had looked merely wet when she entered it, her tears making it hard to see clearly anyway. But flash floods don't give second chances. Within seconds, her car had stalled in 3 feet of rapidly rising water, the engine dying with a gurgle that sounded almost human. The water rose impossibly fast, brown and angry, carrying debris that slammed against her windows like fists. She tried the doors, sealed shut by the pressure. The windows, electric, dead with the engine. Her phone, 1 bar, then none, just like her marriage, just like her hope. Sofia had always been the prepared one, the careful one, the one who carried jumper cables and emergency kits. But she'd never prepared for drowning alone in an underpass while her husband celebrated his new beginning. She didn't know that above her on the highway, 60 bikers returning from a memorial ride were about to become her salvation. The first biker to spot her car was Marcus "Tank" Williams, a 52-year-old veteran who'd been riding at the front of the pack. Through the rain, he saw the Honda's hazard lights blinking beneath the water like a drowning heartbeat. Without hesitation, he raised his fist, the universal biker signal to stop, and all 60 motorcycles pulled over in perfect formation despite the torrential rain. Tank had seen enough death in Afghanistan to recognize when seconds mattered. He ran to the edge of the underpass, saw Sofia's terrified face pressed against the rear window where the last pocket of air remained, and made a decision that would have seemed insane to anyone who hadn't spent years making life-or-death choices. He turned to his brothers, bikers from different clubs, different backgrounds, united only by the memorial ride for a fallen rider, and shouted over the storm, "Woman trapped! We need chains, ropes, and anyone who can swim." What happened next was like watching a military operation, conducted by civilians who'd never trained together, but somehow knew exactly what to do. Big Mike, a mechanic from Toledo, had tow chains. Phoenix, an EMT from Columbus, grabbed her medical kit. Doc, who wasn't a doctor but a veterinarian, started calculating water pressure and breaking points. But it was the youngest rider, a 23-year-old woman named Luna, who everyone called Fish because she'd been a competitive swimmer, who stripped off her leathers and said what they were all thinking. Someone needs to go down there. Now. Tank grabbed her arm, his voice gentle but urgent. That's suicide. Fish, the current. But Luna was already tying a rope around her waist, her eyes fierce with determination. My mom died in a car accident when I was 10. Nobody could get to her in time. Not happening again. Not on my watch. Luna dove into the churning water while 3 bikers held her rope, the rest forming a human chain to anchor them. The water was freezing, violent, filled with debris that cut her arms and face. She reached Sofia's car just as the water covered the roof completely. Through the rear window, she could see Sofia had maybe inches of air left, her lips blue, her eyes starting to close. Luna pounded on the window, trying to get Sofia's attention to keep her conscious. That's when she noticed something that made her blood run cold. A medical alert bracelet on Sofia's wrist. Diabetic. If Sofia went into shock, they'd lose her even if they got her out. Above, the bikers had tied chains to the bridge supports, creating a web of safety lines. Phoenix was already on the phone with 911, but the dispatcher said emergency services couldn't reach them for at least 20 minutes. The roads were all flooded. 20 minutes. Sofia had maybe 2. Tank made the call that would later have lawyers and safety experts shaking their heads in disbelief. We pull the car up, all of us, Now. 60 bikers grabbed the chains Big Mike had attached to the Honda's frame, Luna still underwater, guiding the hooks into place while her lungs screamed for air. And then something extraordinary happened. A Ford F-350 appeared through the rain, its driver a local farmer named Bill who'd been listening to his CB radio. "Heard you folks needed help," he said simply, already backing his truck into position. This truck's pulled heavier things than a Honda, but what made Sofia's eyes fly open wasn't the truck or the chains or even Luna's face pressed against her window. It was the small tattoo on Luna's wrist, visible even through the murky water. A butterfly with a date, 08-15-2013. The same date. The same tattoo. The same design Sofia's daughter Melody had gotten just before the accident that took her life at 23. The same age as Luna. As the bikers and Bill's truck pulled the Honda from the water, Sofia's mind raced even as her body shut down from hypothermia. It couldn't be. But when Luna finally smashed the rear window with a spring-loaded punch tool and pulled Sofia through, their eyes met, and Sofia saw it. The small scar above Luna's left eyebrow. The one from the softball accident when she was 12. "Melody?" Sofia whispered. But the word was lost in the chaos of bikers pulling them both to safety. Luna was performing CPR before Sofia even hit the ground. Her movements precise, professional, desperate. Come on. Stay with me," Luna whispered. And her voice, God, her voice was exactly like. Sofia coughed up water, gasping, and grabbed Luna's wrist. "Your tattoo?" Luna paused, confused. "Yeah, it's for my birth mom. She died when I was a baby. My adoptive mom told me she gave me up on August 15th, 2013, just before she died in a car accident. Said she was only 23, same age as me now." The world stopped. Even the rain seemed to pause. Sofia's voice came out broken. "Melody had a baby. My daughter. She was in an accident, but she gave the baby up for adoption first. Said the father was dangerous, said she wanted her baby safe. The date was August 15th. Luna's hands froze on Sofia's chest. That's impossible. I'm saying I'm your grandmother," Sofia whispered. "And you just saved my life, just like I couldn't save your mother's." The bikers had formed a protective circle around them, keeping the rain off, but nobody moved, nobody breathed. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. It was a reunion written by fate itself. Luna, Melody's daughter, Sofia's granddaughter, collapsed beside Sofia, her swimmer's strength finally giving out to the weight of revelation. My adoptive parents told me my birth mother died thinking about me, that her last words were about hoping her baby would have a better life. Sofia pulled her close, both of them shaking from cold and shock and the impossible gravity of this moment. She did. She talked about you constantly in those 3 days before the adoption was finalized. Called you her little fish because you kicked so much in the womb like you were swimming. Luna's sob was raw, primal. "They call me Fish. The bikers. They've always called me Fish." Tank knelt beside them, his gruff voice soft. "Luna joined our ride group 3 years ago. Said she felt called to help people, to save lives. Became an EMT. Learned to swim competitively, always first to jump in when someone needed help. Now we know why." Sofia looked around at the 60 bikers, all standing in the rain, witnesses to a miracle. "You all saved me. But she brought me back to life in more ways than one." Phoenix draped emergency blankets around them both. "Ambulance is still 15 minutes out, but vitals are stable. Both of you are going to be okay." But Sofia and Luna weren't listening to medical reports. They were staring at each other, memorizing faces, recognizing familiar features. Same eyes, same stubborn chin, same hands that moved when they talked. "My husband just left me," Sofia said suddenly, needing Luna to know. "Tonight, after 23 years, said he needed to follow his happiness." Luna's arms tightened around her. "Then he's an idiot. Because I've been looking for you my whole life. My adoptive parents are wonderful, but I always felt like something was missing. Someone was missing." Sofia touched the butterfly tattoo on Luna's wrist. Melody drew that design. Said butterflies were proof that beautiful things could come from darkness. "Mom and Dad, my adoptive parents, they saved the drawing. Had it made into this tattoo when I turned 18. Luna's voice broke. They're going to lose their minds when they hear about this. They've been helping me search for birth family for years. The ambulance finally arrived, but Sofia refused to let go of Luna's hand even as the paramedics worked. The bikers followed them to the hospital. 60 guardian angels who delivered more than just a rescue. They'd delivered a redemption. Later, in the hospital room, as Sofia's soon-to-be ex-husband rushed in with fake concern and real guilt, he found his wife surrounded by leather-clad bikers and holding the hand of a young woman who looked startlingly familiar. "This is Luna," Sofia said simply. "Melody's daughter. My granddaughter. She saved my life tonight." The look on his face, recognition, regret, realization of what he'd thrown away for a younger woman, was almost worth the pain of the divorce. Almost. But what was worth everything was Luna's presence. This piece of Melody returned to her, this proof that love transcends death, that families find their way back to each other through storms and time and impossible odds. Tank and the other bikers visited every day Sofia was in the hospital. They'd adopted both women into their riding family, joking that Luna had always been looking for where she belonged, and now she'd found it, with a grandmother who'd been drowning in more ways than one, saved by the granddaughter she never knew existed. Bill, the farmer with the truck, refused any reward but accepted Sofia's invitation to Sunday dinner once she recovered. "Family isn't always blood," he said. "Sometimes it's the people who show up when you're drowning." Sofia's divorce went through quickly, her husband's guilt making him generous with the settlement. But she wasn't alone anymore. She had Luna, who moved closer and visited twice a week. She had Luna's adoptive parents, who welcomed Sofia like the missing piece of their own family puzzle. And she had 60 bikers who'd taught her that angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they have motorcycles and the courage to dive into dark water for strangers. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives are just preparing us for the miracles we never saw coming. Sofia had entered that flooded underpass as a woman abandoned, betrayed, alone. She emerged as a grandmother, surrounded by family she didn't know she had, saved by love that had been swimming toward her all along. Do you believe that the people who save us are sometimes sent by those we've lost? Have you ever experienced a moment when tragedy transformed into an unexpected reunion? And perhaps most importantly, if you saw someone drowning, literally or figuratively, would you be brave enough to dive in, not knowing that you might be saving family you haven't met yet?